The invisible girl Prisha Sharma hurried across the crowded university courtyard, clutching her books to her chest as if they were armor. The autumn breeze rustled through the campus trees, sending golden leaves spiraling down around her. Unlike the other students who moved in laughing clusters, Prisha walked alone, her eyes fixed on the cobblestone path ahead. "Did you even try this morning?" The words sliced through the air as Prisha passed a group of girls perched on a bench. Dia, with her perfectly styled hair and designer clothes, didn't bother lowering her voice. "It's like she's allergic to effort." Prisha's cheeks burned, but she kept walking. 3 years at Riverside University had taught her that invisibility was preferable to attention. Her simple cotton kurti, practical jeans, and face free of makeup made her stand out in a sea of carefully crafted appearances, not because she was noticeable, but because she wasn't trying to be. In the lecture hall for advanced economics, Prisha slipped into her usual seat in the second row, not too far back to miss anything, not too close to draw attention. She arranged her color-coded notebooks methodically, each one labeled with precise handwriting. The classroom door burst open as Vikram Malhotra strode in, fashionably late as always. The room seemed to shift to accommodate his presence. Tall with an easy confidence that came from a lifetime of being admired, Vikram ran a hand through his stylishly tousled hair as he scanned for an empty seat. "Vikram, over here!" Several voices called out, eager hands waving him over. He grinned, choosing a spot among his usual crowd, the self-proclaimed campus elite who treated university like an extension of their social media profiles. Prisha didn't look up, but she could feel the energy in the room change. People like Vikram existed in a different universe than hers. "Did you see the economics assignment?" Professor Kapoor asked as he entered the room. "I'd like to discuss the approaches some of you took." Prisha raised her hand, tentative but determined. When the professor nodded at her, she began explaining her analysis of regional economic disparities. Her voice grew stronger as she delved into the subject she loved. From across the room, Vikram glanced over, momentarily distracted from his phone. His friend Arjun nudged him and whispered something that made them both snicker. "At least brush your hair if you're going to talk that long," Arjun said, just loud enough for those nearby to hear. The ripple of laughter made Prisha's words falter. She tucked a strand of her simple, unstyled hair behind her ear and finished her point quickly, shrinking back into her seat. After class, Prisha headed to her sanctuary, the university library. Between the tall shelves of books, she could disappear into worlds where people were valued for their minds, not their appearance. The library assistant smiled as Prisha approached the desk. "I've got that research journal you requested, Prisha," said Mrs. Bhatia, sliding a heavy volume across the counter. "Always so dedicated. You remind me of myself at your age." This small kindness brightened Prisha's day. She settled at her favorite table near the window, where afternoon sunlight created a warm pool around her. Opening her laptop, she began working on the group project she'd been assigned, alone as usual, after no one had selected her as a partner. Across the library, Vikram and his friends sprawled across several chairs, more focused on their whispered conversations than studying. When Vikram glanced over and caught sight of Prisha working intently, he didn't really see her. She was just part of the background, like the bookshelves or the clock on the wall, barely registering in his world of parties, sports, and social status. Neither of them knew that in 3 days' time, everything would change, that the girl who was invisible would become the only person he could see. The moment that changed everything, the annual Riverside University Cultural Festival, transformed the campus into a vibrant spectacle of color and sound. Students who had spent the semester hunched over textbooks now painted banners, practiced dance routines, and constructed elaborate stage sets. For 3 days, academic pressure gave way to creativity and celebration. Prisha moved quietly through the organized chaos, clipboard in hand. While others vied for spotlight roles, she had volunteered for the production team, content to work behind the scenes. The festival coordinator had quickly recognized her meticulous nature and placed her in charge of backstage logistics. "Prisha, could you check the lighting rig in the East Wing?" Professor Mehta called out. Something doesn't look right with the fixture above the solo performance area. With a nod, Prisha made her way through the maze of props and costumes. The auditorium was a hive of activity. Dancers stretching in corners, musicians tuning instruments, actors running lines. Nobody paid attention to the slight figure in simple clothes examining the overhead lighting. Climbing the narrow access ladder, Prisha inspected the problematic fixture. The mounting bracket had come loose, leaving the heavy spotlight dangerously unstable. She frowned, noting how it hung directly above the performance mark where soloists would stand. "This needs immediate fixing," she muttered to herself, carefully descending to report the issue. Meanwhile, Vikram was holding court near the stage entrance, surrounded by admirers as he prepared for his solo dance performance. His traditional outfit had been custom-made, the embroidery catching the light with each gesture as he demonstrated a complex dance move. "Vikram, you're going to steal the show," gushed Tanvi, the festival's lead coordinator and daughter of a prominent university donor. She touched his arm possessively. "The talent scouts from Mumbai will be watching." He flashed his practiced smile. "Just doing my part for Riverside's reputation." But beneath his confident exterior, Vikram felt the pressure. His father had made it clear. Excel at everything or face disappointment. Dance was his true passion, but he never let anyone see how much it actually meant to him. Vulnerability wasn't part of the Vikram Malhotra brand. The announcement for final rehearsals blared over the speakers. Performers scrambled to their positions, and Prisha tried to intercept the stage manager about the faulty light, but he brushed past her in the commotion. Later, he said dismissively. "We're running behind schedule." Concerned, Prisha stationed herself near the danger zone, eyes fixed on the wobbling fixture overhead. The music began and performers took their turns on stage. When Vikram's name was announced, cheers erupted from the wings. He took his position directly beneath the compromised spotlight and struck his opening pose. The music swelled, and Vikram launched into his choreography, each movement precise and powerful. From her vantage point, Prisha could see what others couldn't, the slight shimmy of the heavy metal fixture as it worked itself looser with each vibration from the booming speakers. It happened in an instant. A final bolt gave way and the spotlight plummeted downward. Prisha didn't think, she moved. Lunging forward, she collided with Vikram mid-spin, sending them both tumbling across the stage floor just as the fixture crashed down exactly where he had been standing. The shattering glass and metal created a deafening crash. Screams filled the auditorium as students scrambled away from the falling debris. In the confusion, Prisha found herself holding Vikram protectively, her arms wrapped around him as they lay on the floor several feet from the impact zone. For a moment, they stayed frozen in that position, her arms around his shoulders, his face inches from hers, both breathing heavily from adrenaline. In that suspended moment, Vikram truly saw Prisha for the first time, her eyes wide with concern, not for herself but for him. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Before he could answer, people swarmed around them. Hands pulled them apart and upright. The stage manager began shouting orders to clear the area, while others checked the remaining fixtures. "You saved him!" Tanvi exclaimed, pushing past Prisha to reach Vikram. "Vikram, are you okay?" He nodded automatically, but his eyes remained on Prisha as she was pushed to the periphery of the concerned circle. The girl everyone overlooked had just prevented what could have been a serious injury or worse. In the aftermath, the festival was postponed for safety inspections. Students dispersed in buzzing groups, the near accident providing fresh gossip. Prisha slipped away quietly, her task completed without recognition, as usual. That evening, Vikram sat alone in his apartment, replaying the moment in his mind. He could still feel the protective embrace, the surprising strength in her slender arms as she pulled him from danger. He remembered the scent of her, simple jasmine, not the expensive perfumes he was accustomed to, and the unexpected grace in her movements. Most of all, he remembered her eyes, clear, intelligent, and completely focused on his well-being without a hint of the admiration or agenda he usually saw when people looked at him. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages asking if he was all right, if the performance would be rescheduled, if the talent scouts would return. But Vikram barely noticed. Something had shifted inside him, like a curtain being drawn back to reveal a view he'd never noticed before. He searched through the university's social media pages until he found her. Prisha Sharma, hardly visible in group photos, never tagged, in campus events. The girl who had held him so securely yet disappeared so completely afterward. Vikram didn't understand why he couldn't stop thinking about her. He only knew that when the spotlight fell and chaos erupted, she had been the person who moved toward danger rather than away. And in that moment of unexpected closeness, something had awakened in him that he couldn't ignore. Seeing with new eyes 3 days after the accident, Riverside University cautiously resumed festival preparations. The administration had replaced all lighting fixtures and implemented stricter safety protocols. Students returned to rehearsals, with renewed energy, the near disaster already fading into campus lore. Vikram walked through the university grounds with uncharacteristic distraction. Friends called out greetings, professors nodded respectfully, but he barely registered them. Since that moment on stage, he'd been noticing gaps in his world, spaces where certain people existed but had somehow remained invisible to him. He spotted her in the campus cafe, sitting alone by the window. Prisha was absorbed in a book, occasionally, making notes in the margin. Nothing about her appearance had changed. The same simple clothing, the same unadorned face, the same practical ponytail. Yet Vikram found himself unable to look away. "Earth to Vikram." Arjun waved a hand in front of his face. "What are you staring at?" Vikram blinked, realizing his friends had joined him. "Nothing, just thinking about the performance." "Well, stop thinking and start celebrating." Arjun grinned. "The scouts are coming back this weekend, and Tanvi's father pulled strings to get you a private audition." This news should have thrilled him. Instead, Vikram found himself looking back toward Prisha's table. "I should thank her," he said, more to himself than his friends. "Thank who?" Tanvi asked, appearing beside him with perfect timing as always. "The girl who warned about the light. The one who pushed me out of the way." Tanvi's expression cooled. "Oh, her. I think the university already sent her a thank you email or something." She linked her arm through Vikram's. "Come on, we need to discuss your new choreography." But as his friends pulled him toward their usual table, Vikram noticed something that stopped him mid-step. An elderly custodian had dropped his collection of cleaning supplies near the entrance, and while most students walked past without a glance, Prisha had immediately set down her book and hurried to help. "I've got it, Beta," the old man protested, embarrassment evident in his voice. "It's no trouble, Uncle," Prisha replied warmly, gathering bottles and cloths. "How's your grandson doing with his exams?" The custodian's face brightened. "He passed his mathematics test, first in his class, just like you said he could." Their easy conversation revealed a history. This wasn't a random act of kindness, but part of a pattern. As Vikram watched, he realized Prisha knew the custodian's name, his family concerns, his schedule. She treated him with the same respect she would give a professor. Throughout the day, Vikram found himself noticing Prisha in moments he would have previously overlooked. In the library, she patiently explained a complex economics concept to a struggling first-year student. During lunch, she discreetly left her dessert at the table of a scholarship student who could rarely afford cafeteria extras. In class, she defended a shy international student when others mocked his accent. These weren't grand gestures meant to be seen. They were the quiet actions of someone who moved through the world with genuine compassion. That evening, Vikram found himself walking toward the library instead of joining his friends at their usual hangout. Through the window, he spotted Prisha organizing a study group, carefully ensuring everyone had a chance to speak. Her face animated when discussing ideas, revealing a beauty that had nothing to do with conventional standards. He entered quietly, taking a seat at a nearby table. When the group disbanded, Vikram gathered his courage and approached her. "Prisha?" She looked up, surprise evident in her expression. People like Vikram didn't know people like her by name. "I wanted to thank you," he continued, suddenly feeling uncharacteristically awkward. For what you did at the festival, you saved me from serious injury. Prisha tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't. You did. He gestured to the chair across from her. May I? Hesitantly, she nodded. For the next hour, they talked, awkwardly at first, then with increasing ease. Vikram learned that Prisha was at Riverside on a full academic scholarship, that she worked part-time tutoring local children, that she hoped to develop economic policies to help rural communities like the one where her grandparents lived. Why do you help everyone so much? He asked, genuinely curious. Most people don't even notice. She considered his question thoughtfully. My grandmother used to say that kindness doesn't need an audience to be worthwhile. Her words lingered with him long after they parted. That night, Vikram found himself examining his own life with uncomfortable clarity. His popularity had always seemed like an achievement, but now he questioned its foundation. People admired his talents, his looks, his family name, but had anyone ever valued him for the person beneath those external qualities? The next morning, Vikram arrived early for Professor Kapoor's economics lecture. When Prisha entered, he surprised himself and her by waving her over to the empty seat beside him. Whispers immediately rippled through the classroom. You don't have to do this, she said quietly, aware of the attention they were attracting. I know, he replied simply. I want to. Throughout the lecture, Vikram noticed things he'd missed during 3 years of the same class. Prisha's notes were meticulously organized with color-coded systems for different economic theories. Her questions showed a depth of understanding that went far beyond the syllabus. When Professor Kapoor posed a particularly challenging problem, she solved it with an innovative approach that even the professor hadn't considered. Brilliant insight, Ms. Sharma, Professor Kapoor remarked. This is precisely the kind of original thinking that economics needs. Vikram saw the flush of pride on her face. Not vanity, but the quiet satisfaction of being recognized for her mind rather than her appearance. And for the first time, he found himself wondering what it would be like to be valued for who he truly was, beneath the carefully crafted exterior he showed the world. As they walked out of class together, ignoring the stares and whispers, Vikram realized that the girl everyone had deemed ordinary was perhaps the most extraordinary person he had ever met. The accident hadn't just saved him from physical harm. It had opened his eyes to a whole world he had been too blind to see. Breaking the mold. The university cafeteria buzzed with lunchtime energy as Vikram entered, tray in hand. Automatically, he glanced toward his usual table where Arjun, Tanvi, and the others were already seated, commanding the center of the room, as always. Tanvi caught his eye and waved him over, patting the empty seat beside her that was perpetually reserved for him. But today, Vikram hesitated. His gaze drifted across the room to where Prisha sat alone near the window, absorbed in a book while eating her lunch. Before he could second-guess himself, he changed direction and walked toward her table. Is this seat taken? He asked. Prisha looked up, momentary confusion crossing her face before she shook her head. No, it's free. As Vikram sat down, a hush fell over nearby tables. The sight of Vikram Malhotra, campus celebrity and social cornerstone, sitting with the girl everyone overlooked was apparently more interesting than their lunch. You don't have to do this, Prisha said quietly, echoing her words from the classroom days earlier. Your friends are waiting. They'll survive without me for one meal, he replied, opening his water bottle. What are you reading? Their conversation flowed more naturally now, moving from books to films to their shared interest in classical dance. A passion Vikram was surprised to discover Prisha harbored. She had trained in Bharatanatyam for years but never performed. Publicly, why not? Vikram asked. You clearly love it. Prisha shrugged. I dance for myself, not for an audience. She hesitated before adding, not everyone needs applause to enjoy what they love. Her words struck him deeply. How much of his life had been spent performing, not just on stage, but in every interaction. Always aware of being watched, judged, admired. The thought was both disturbing and liberating. Across the cafeteria, Vikram's absence from his usual table had not gone unnoticed. Arjun approached, wearing an expression of exaggerated concern. "Vikram, man, did you get lost?" he asked, eyeing Prisha with barely concealed disdain. "We're discussing the after-party for the festival." "I'm good here, thanks," Vikram replied evenly. "Prisha and I were just talking about dance." Arjun raised an eyebrow. "Dance? Her?" He laughed as if Vikram had made an excellent joke. When no one joined his laughter, his expression hardened. "Seriously, what are you doing?" "Having lunch with a friend," Vikram said firmly. "I'll catch up with you later." The word friend hung in the air between them. Arjun retreated, clearly confused and slightly angry. Prisha looked down at her half-eaten lunch, discomfort evident in her posture. "I should go," she said, gathering her things. "I don't want to cause problems between you and your friends." Vikram gently placed his hand on hers, stopping her. "You're not causing anything, they are." The warmth of her skin against his sent an unexpected current through him. "Please stay." She did, and they finished lunch talking about their families, his parents' high expectations, her father's small bookshop in their hometown, the values that shaped them both. Over the next 2 weeks, their friendship grew despite the social current pushing against it. Vikram began joining Prisha's study sessions, finding her clear explanations more helpful than the expensive tutors his father had hired. They took walks around campus, discovering shared interests in photography and old Bollywood films. Sometimes, they just sat in comfortable silence in the library, working on separate assignments but drawing comfort from each other's presence. The changes in Vikram didn't go unnoticed. His usual crowd watched with increasing concern as he skipped parties to help Prisha with her community literacy project, arrived at dance rehearsals in simpler clothes, and worst of all, seemed genuinely happier in his new routine. "What's happened to you?" Tanvi confronted him after he declined an invitation to her exclusive birthday celebration in favor of helping at a fundraiser Prisha had organized for the university's scholarship fund. "It's like you're turning into her." She said the last word as if it were an insult. "Would that be so terrible?" Vikram asked quietly. "To be kind, intelligent, and genuine?" Tanvi's expression shifted from anger to calculation. "You know the talent scouts are making their final decisions next week. Being seen with someone like her isn't doing your image any favors." "Someone like her?" Vikram repeated slowly. "You mean someone who works harder than anyone I know? Someone who helps others without expecting anything in return? Someone who sees people that the rest of us have been trained to ignore?" "Don't be naive," Tanvi snapped. "Image matters in the performance world. Your father understands that. Why? Do you think he's always so careful about your public appearances?" The mention of his father struck a nerve. Suresh Malhotra had built his business empire on careful image management and strategic relationships. He expected the same approach from his son. That evening, Vikram's phone rang with his father's name flashing on the screen. He answered with a sense of dread. "I hear you've been spending time with a scholarship student," his father said without preamble. "Tanvi's father mentioned it during our golf game." Of course he had. The Malhotras and Tanvi's family had been socially connected for years. "Her name is Prisha," Vikram replied. "And yes, we've become friends." "Friends?" his father repeated skeptically. "Son, you're at a critical juncture in your life. The right connections now will determine your future success. I'm not saying you can't be kind to everyone, but your close circle should reflect our family's standing." The conversation left Vikram unsettled. For the first time, he found himself questioning values he had accepted without thought. Was status really more important than character? Did appearance matter more than substance? The following day, as he approached the rehearsal hall for festival preparations, he overheard voices around the corner. "Just using you to look charitable," Arjun's voice was saying. "You're this season's good deed for him." "I know who Vikram is," Prisha's calm reply carried clearly. "And I don't need you or anyone else to protect me from friendship." "Friendship?" Arjun laughed. "Come on. Guys like Vikram don't become friends with girls like you without an agenda. Maybe it's help with coursework. Maybe it's to impress someone. With his generosity, Either way, you're being naive. Vikram stepped around the corner, anger pulsing through him. That's enough, Arjun. Both turned to face him, Arjun with defiance, Prisha with quiet dignity. Just telling her the truth, man. Arjun shrugged. No hard feelings. The truth? Vikram stepped closer. The truth is that Prisha has shown me more about integrity and genuine connection in 2 weeks than I've learned from our entire social circle in 3 years. Arjun's expression shifted from surprise to contempt. Wow, she's really got you snowed. He looked between them and shook his head. Your father would be disappointed. As Arjun walked away, Vikram turned to Prisha, suddenly afraid of what he might see in her eyes. Had Arjun's words planted doubt? Did she believe he had an ulterior motive? I'm sorry about that, he said quietly. Prisha studied his face for a long moment. Why are you friends with me, Vikram, really? The question deserved complete honesty. Because when I'm with you, I don't have to be Vikram Malhotra. I can just be me, whoever that is. I'm still figuring that out. He took a deep breath. And because I've never met anyone who makes me want to be better just by being themselves. Something shifted in her expression, a softening, a warmth that reached her eyes. That's a good enough reason for me, she said simply. As they walked into the rehearsal hall together, Vikram realized he had crossed an invisible line. He had chosen authenticity over appearance, substance over status. The path ahead might be more difficult, but for the first time in his life it felt genuinely his own. The heart recognizes truth. The night of the rescheduled cultural festival arrived with an electric energy that hummed throughout the campus. Colorful lanterns illuminated the pathways, food stalls offered regional delicacies, and the main auditorium buzzed with anticipation for the evening's performances. Backstage, Vikram adjusted his costume with unusual nervousness. The past month had transformed him in ways he was still discovering. His reflection in the mirror showed the same face, but behind his eyes lived a different person. 5 minutes, everyone, called the stage manager, hurrying past with her clipboard. Vikram took a deep breath. The talent scouts were seated in the front row, his father in the VIP section, and his future seemingly hanging on the next few minutes of performance. Yet strangely, those concerns felt distant compared to one particular thought. He hoped Prisha would watch him dance. You'll be amazing, came a quiet voice behind him. Vikram turned to find Prisha standing there, clipboard in hand as part of the production team. Her simple salwar kameez was a stark contrast to the elaborate costumes around her, but to Vikram, she outshone them all. I changed the choreography, he admitted. It's not what everyone's expecting. Prisha tilted her head, curiously. Why? Because I've been dancing what others wanted to see. Tonight I'm dancing what I feel. He hesitated before adding, it might cost me the scouts' approval. Then they never deserved to see the real you anyway. She replied with such conviction that his doubts receded. The announcement of his name brought cheers from the audience. Vikram stepped onto the stage, the spotlight finding him as the music began. But instead of the high-energy technical showcase everyone expected, he began with slow, deliberate movements that told a story of awakening, of someone emerging from shadows into light, discovering the world anew. In the audience, Suresh Malhotra leaned forward with a frown, while the talent scouts whispered to each other. But Vikram didn't see them. His eyes found Prisha watching from the wings, and in her gaze he found the only approval that mattered. When the performance ended, the silence was brief but profound before applause erupted. Not the polite appreciation of critics, but the genuine response of an audience moved by authentic emotion. Vikram bowed, his heart pounding with the vulnerability of having shown his true self. Backstage was a flurry of conflicting reactions. The talent scouts approached with thoughtful expressions rather than the enthusiastic offers he'd anticipated. Interesting choice, Mr. Malhotra, said the lead scout. Not what we expected, but intriguing. We'd like to discuss a different kind of opportunity with you. Perhaps choreography rather than performance. Before Vikram could respond, his father appeared, his expression tight with disapproval. A word, son, Suresh said, leading Vikram to A quiet corner. What was that? We discussed your performance strategy. That was not what we agreed upon. No, it wasn't, Vikram acknowledged. It was better. It was honest. Honest doesn't build careers, his father replied sharply. I've invested too much in your training to watch you throw away opportunities on artistic expression. The disappointment in his father's voice would have crushed him a month ago. Now, Vikram found himself standing taller. I'm not throwing anything away, I'm choosing what matters. He gestured toward the scouts still waiting nearby. They're interested in my choreography, my actual creative vision. Because of a girl? His father asked incredulously, having noticed the way Vikram's eyes kept finding Prisha across the room. This isn't like you, Vikram. That's where you're wrong, Dad, Vikram said gently. This is exactly like me. You just never took the time to see it. As the festival continued around them, Vikram found Prisha organizing the next performers. Their eyes met across the chaotic backstage area, and without words, they understood each other perfectly. Later that night, as the festival wound down and volunteers began cleaning up, Vikram and Prisha sat on the steps of the auditorium, watching the last of the lanterns glow against the night sky. Your dance was beautiful, Prisha said softly. I've never seen you perform like that before. I've never felt like that before, Vikram admitted. He turned to face her fully. Prisha, before that accident, I was sleepwalking through life. I had everything and appreciated nothing. I judged people by appearances because I was terrified of being judged for anything deeper myself. Prisha listened, her expression open and attentive, the same genuine presence that had first captured his attention. That day, when you pulled me away from danger, you didn't just save me from a falling light, he continued. You woke me up. And every day since then, you've shown me what real beauty looks like. Not in perfect features or designer clothes, but in small kindnesses and quiet courage. I'm not special, Vikram, she said, looking down. I'm just me. That's exactly what makes you special. He reached for her hand, marveling at how natural it felt to hold it. I used to think I knew what mattered. Now I realize I had everything backward. It's not about being seen by everyone. It's about being truly seen by someone. The campus had fallen quiet around them, most students having departed for after-parties or returned to their dorms. In the distance, a campus security guard made his rounds, and Prisha waved to him by name. Your father doesn't approve of me, she said, not as a question, but as a simple observation. He doesn't know you, Vikram replied. But he will, and when he does, he'll understand why you've changed everything for me. I haven't changed you, Vikram. I just saw you, the real you that was always there beneath the expectations and performances. Her words resonated with a truth he was still learning to embrace. For years he had believed his value came from others' admiration. Now he understood that genuine worth came from within, from choices made with integrity, from connections built on mutual respect. 6 months later, as spring blossomed across campus, Vikram and Prisha walked hand in hand through the university gardens. Much had changed. Vikram had accepted an apprenticeship with a contemporary dance company that valued his innovative choreography. Prisha had won a prestigious economics fellowship. Their relationship had deepened, weathering the initial storm of gossip and judgment until even the most skeptical began to see what they meant to each other. Look, Prisha pointed to a notice board announcing nominations for the annual university awards. Both their names appeared under student leadership, hers for the literacy program she'd expanded, his for the dance workshops he now offered to underprivileged children. We make a good team, Vikram smiled, squeezing her hand. We always did, she replied, even before we knew it. As they continued their walk, they passed Arjun and some of Vikram's former crowd. The groups exchanged polite nods, not friends, but no longer adversaries. Tanvi had transferred to another university after her father's company faced financial difficulties, a reminder that external status was as impermanent as fashion trends. Suresh Malhotra had required more time to adjust to his son's new path. But a breakthrough came when he attended one of Vikram's choreographed performances and witnessed the passionate response of the audience. "They see you," he had said afterward, beginning to understand what his son had discovered months earlier. That evening, as Vikram and Prisha sat studying in her small apartment, he found himself watching her instead of his textbook. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when concentrating, the small furrow between her brows when tackling a complex problem, the quiet grace in her every movement. "What?" she asked, catching his gaze. "I was just thinking about how differently things might have turned out if that light hadn't fallen," he said. Prisha considered this. "I think we would have found each other eventually. Some connections are inevitable." "You sound very certain." She smiled. "The heart recognizes truth even when the eyes are slow to see it." Vikram leaned forward and kissed her gently. In that moment, he knew she was right. What had begun with an unexpected embrace during a moment of crisis had blossomed into something neither of them could have predicted, but both had perhaps always needed. A love based not on appearances or expectations, but on seeing and accepting each other completely. The world still placed tremendous value on outer beauty and status, and likely always would, but in their corner of that world, Vikram and Prisha had created something different. A space where a person's character outweighed their appearance, where kindness was recognized as strength, and where love grew from genuine recognition of another's true self. It wasn't always easy bucking social expectations, but it was infinitely worthwhile. Because when you find someone who sees you, really sees you, nothing else matters quite as much. Together, they were rewriting the story of what it meant to be beautiful, what it meant to be successful, and most importantly, what it meant to be truly seen.